Hi everybody, this is Patty Sliney, Handy Quilter, National Educator here. And I had a request on one of the Facebook social media groups asking how we can actually digitize our own design right in Pro Stitcher Premium or Lite. So I wanted to show you today how we can do that. It needs to be a pretty simple straight line design, but you can actually do that right in Pro Stitcher Premium or Lite. So let me go ahead and get some things set up to make it a little bit easier to create our own design. So I'm going to go to my View tab. I'm going to turn the grid on. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I have a little bit more working room. Right, gives me some room here. And then I'm going to go to the tool that we would use to be able to digitize our own design right in Pro Stitcher Premium or Lite. And that's on the Pro Stitcher tab. And it is the Record tool. And in Record on the right sidebar, we have a mark button that allows us to plot a design point. And as we plot design points, Pro Stitcher will create a straight stitching line between those design points. So I kind of sketched out a little design on grid paper that I can kind of follow, and that's where I'd recommend you start. Do a little doodling and get something designed that you think is pretty simple and easy. So I'm going to show you what I drew out. And first we need to turn Simulate on here so I can turn my mouse into my hands on the handlebars of the machine. Allows me to move my crosshairs around. And I'm going to place my crosshairs at my first design point, but I'm going to turn on Snap to Grid first. Snap to Grid will make my design point that I plot snap to a grid intersection. And you can see the grid intersections here represent, the dark lines represent 1 inch grid and the fainter lines are 1/4 inch grid marks. So I can be close, but I don't have to be right on, which is really helpful when I'm zoomed out this far. So I'm going to start here for my first point based on my little sketch, and I'm going to plot my first point. Then I'm going to left click and hold on my mouse, which will allow me to drag my crosshairs to my next point that I want to plot, and put another point. Press the left mouse button down and hold it, and go to my next plot point. Click on Mark again. Go to my next point. And this is based on the little sketch that I sketched myself. My next point. And I just keep going through here, holding the left mouse down, button down, and dragging my cursor to where I want to plot the point. Then I click on Mark, left click and hold, drag the crosshairs where I want it to go, plot a point, plot my next point, hold the left mouse button down, drag my mouse to where I want to go, plot my point, plot my point, and then plot my last point. Okay, so I've created a design that is 12 by 12. And remember, you can always resize this. It doesn't have to stay 12 by 12, but I made it big because it's a little bit easier to see. I'm also going to go back to my view, turn my grid off so you can see this a little better, and move my crosshairs out of the way. As you can see, I have met my design parameters for an all-over edge-to-edge design with the start point on the left, end point on the right. Both those points must lie on the same horizontal plane, and they do. You can see I use my horizontal crosshair as kind of a guide. They're where they need to be. This will allow this design element to be able to repeat itself horizontally if we're using the Repeat tab, and each repeated design element will connect together. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to baseline it, and then I would save it. So you can go to File, Save, Selected, and I have a miscellaneous folder that I created for myself here, And you can see I've already saved it. So to save it, you just click in here. I clear the name. I click with my mouse button in here, and then I can just type diamond in diamond, edge to edge, and I would click save. Since I've already done it, I'm not going to save it again. So I did mention that you can resize it, which is not a problem. So to resize it, you just go to Modify, Resize, turn your lock button on. You can pick either the width or the height because this is 12 by 12. And I resized it down to 8, so I had a smaller one to use. Turn my lock button off. Don't forget to turn this button off. It's an on-off button, so we always want to turn it off once we're done using it. Baseline this again. Same thing. File, save, selected. You can see I did save it here, right here. Diamond in a diamond, 8-inch edge to edge. So I try to save it with names that make sense. If it's an edge to edge design, I'm always going to put edge to edge in here. So I know it's an edge to edge design. And if I've resized it, I try to put the dimensions in there so I know, so I don't have to open it up and say, oh, that's the wrong size. Now, I was looking at this and it does repeat very nicely. So let's repeat this. And whoop, sorry, that's what happens when you leave your finger on the button. Okay, so we've got it repeated, and let's repeat it vertically. Whoop, wrong button. There we go. So I've got it repeated vertically, and that's an interesting design, but I really think it would look better if it was wrapped. So let's go to Repeat Wrap, and then go back to the horizontal tab in the right sidebar, and click the row 1/2 button to wrap it. That will offset every other row by half the width of the design element. And I would probably want to reduce the vertical gap. So let's go back to Basic, Vertical, and then let's reduce the gap by maybe 2, -2. That looks pretty good. Now I need to add some more vertical repeats if this were a quilt top, so it would cover my quilt top. But that looks pretty neat. I kind of like that, but I got to thinking, this center section, to me in the design element, it looks a little empty. So I thought, wonder if I could modify this and add maybe another diamond in the middle. Well, I sure can. Now since I saved this design element, I can just go to File, Design, Open, and edit it, or I can just undo everything. Let's undo everything. Get back to my single design element. Just clicking the undo button. There we go. So I've got my single design element, and I want to add a diamond in here. So how would I do that? In thinking, I'm going to remove this last segment, and then I'm going to create a segment, a diamond, and a segment. So here's how I would do that. I can go to Pro Stitcher, new Start End, and move my design point over here by going to the end column and using the middle up arrow and moving my stop point here. Then I can crop this line out by going to Modify, Crop, Start End, took out that last line segment I had made, baseline it. So let's turn our grid back on so we can see what we're doing. So now I want to add another little diamond in the middle here. So let's turn Simulate back on, get my crosshairs where I want to start back over here. Pro Stitcher, record, Snap to Grid is still on. So let's create this middle section. So I'm going to plot my first point right on top of the start end of this first design element. And then I'm going to move my crosshairs to here. So it's going to make a nice little diamond mark. Same thing, left click, hold. Press mark. Left click and hold and drag my mouse where I want it to go on the grid. Click mark. Left click and hold my mouse, move my mouse to the grid intersection, mark, and then over here. Mark. Okay, let's turn off the grid so you can see better. Okay, so I created a middle section, but if you look on my workspace, I have two designs. First off, if I'm happy with this second segment, let's baseline it. And then we need to combine this one and this one. So the easiest way to do that is to click Select None. And I know that this was the first one, and that's the one I want to stitch out first. And this bottom freehand was this middle section. So if I click Multi-Select, select the first one I did, and then the second one, it will combine them, turn off Multi-Select, baseline, and now I have a new design that I would do File, Save, Selected, rename it, which I did. You can see I called it Diamond in Diamond with Square, edge to edge. And then let's see how this looks repeated. Oh, that's really pretty. And then let's wrap it. Go back to the horizontal, wrap it by half, and let's close the gap down. I picked a -2. Whoop. But you got to do it on the vertical. And basic, vertical, gap, -2. There we go. Add a couple more rows. And that's what it would look like stitched out on a quilt. And I really like that. I think that's pretty cool. So I hope this was fun. I encourage you to practice this in simulation on your laptop. Pour your favorite beverage or adult beverage, put your feet up on the ottoman and play around in simulation and see if you can create your own design. It can be an edge-to-edge design. It can be a block design. Just remember, it's only going to be straight line segments. You can't create curves. And it helps to kind of go in an order. I like to go clockwise, as you see. So keep that in mind as you're creating your line segments. Give it a try and then post up what you did so we can see. Thanks and happy quilting.